It's 6 o'clock.
Good evening, learners. Welcome to virtual classes organized by Board of Studies, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for the paper 7B Strategic Management. Our companions, like our last session, are going to be this, and I have added on the southern eastern quadrant linkages with the other topics in the syllabus. So I have added another feature to our interaction today. However, I would like to begin with my respectful obeisances to the future CAs. We invite in university chartered accountants for faculty development programs and to enlighten us about what is going on in the industry. So I sincerely believe that there is a Guru Tattva and a teacher in each one of us, and to that Guru Tattva, we respectfully bow. And as teachers, may we usher in good health, hope, happiness, and harmony for all, the living and the non-living, this universe and the entire cosmos. Today's thank you so much, friends, Dalia, Vaishnavi, Vimla, for your greetings, and here we go. And I also take this opportunity to record my appreciation of two important questions in the yesterday's analysis, yesterday's 2nd September's session. Radha, for her kind of question that any limitation of strategic management is not a limitation forever. It can always be overcome by sharpening the tool of strategy formulation. Remember, we had drawn an analogy with a ship caught in a storm, and we saw and we realized that just because a ship may be caught in a storm and it may be taken by surprise, it doesn't mean that we give away with the compass. Rather, we need to develop more robust compass and early warning systems with a view to ensuring smooth sailing of the ship. And Mr. Sanjay, in case you are there today as well, for your question with respect to the ambidexterity principle, that seems to suggest that strategic management across the life cycle of the corporation, tends to be circular. So we move from one mode to another mode of strategy formulation, and that's how the going concern idea of strategy formulation, takes the fore. So before I proceed, further with the agenda for the today's session, on Unit 2, it is always advisable to do a kind of a quick check, from my previous session. In case you have attended my previous session, you can write in your response sheets, on the question forum, whether you are you can recall certain things that we did in the earlier session. So any take on three essentials of strategic management that I drew with the one arrow embedded in the other. So does anyone recall the three essentials of strategic management that I took up in my last intervention? An arrow in arrow in arrow. There were three kind of embedded arrows. Anybody can quickly recall? Okay, probably seems like I think except Mansha, probably all the participants who have put up their questions or greetings so far. Are relatively new to my sessions. The three essential of strategic management, if you may recall, I had said that in order to understand the discipline of strategic management, we need to understand that strategy links with the firm's context, the business environment. So that is the biggest arrow. And then strategic management is also a process of planning, implementing, and evaluating. That is the second arrow inside the context arrow. And then third arrow within the process arrow is about the specific content of the strategy. So if we are doing a business level strategy, what are the elements of the business level strategy? So the three, essentials of strategic management, whatever we are doing, doing in strategic management has to pertain to these three things. One, that is the context, the business environment. Two, that is the process which is followed in strategic management, that is of planning, implementation, and evaluation. And third is the content. Okay. Second. Yeah, that's correct, Satish. Thank you so much for recalling this, Mr. Satish from Andhra Pradesh. Okay. Second thing that we took up, and that is there in your study material also, the elements given by Guluk and George, the triadic definition of strategic planning, strategic management by Guluk and George. Can anyone quickly recall and quickly remember the Guluk and George definition? And of course, the third question is levels of strategy. That would, I'm sure, all of you would be remembering. So, the recall question number 2, definition by Guluk and George. What are the three words that Guluk and George uses to describe the type of strategic plan? The plan that is strategy. So he defines strategy as a plan, but what are the three phrases or three words that he uses? They use to emphasize the nature of strategy. Anyone? Okay, probably there will be a time lag between right and when your response reaches me. Yeah, unified, comprehensive, and integrated plan. Chavda, Payal Sanjay from Dhule, absolutely, you're correct. And Vaishnavi also gets it perfectly right. Manisha, as always, is right. So if I were to kind of remove this, and we need to understand these words very carefully, that it is unified because it ties all the parts of the enterprise together. It is not that it pertains to only a specific part. For example, an advertisement campaign. In fact, the point that I will elaborate subsequently in the discussion of my unit 2. The strategy binds or unifies all the parts of the enterprise together, and therefore it not only covers the finance and marketing, and operations. It is comprehensive enough. So strategy pervades as if it were all the major aspects of the enterprise. So much so that it radicalizes. It brings about a transformation in the means and chain, right? Starting from the corporate vision to the departmental goals and the individual goals. So that is how it becomes comprehensive and integrated, because all the parts of the plan are compatible with each other. Because if suppose my finance is not compatible with my operations, my strategic objectives will not be achieved. So it is a well orchestrated, coordinated, kind of an endeavor in the pursuit of organizational objectives in the competitive context. So that is how you need to, kind of understand what you call this. The third, of course, you have very correctly identified that levels of strategy are corporate, business, and functional. Of course, I had introduced you to the idea of network level strategies too. Moving on, I had also emphasized strategic management across firm life cycle. So, do you remember, and recall in terms of how I related even these levels of strategy formulation to the life cycle of the firm? Anyone can quickly respond and recall my intervention in the previous session. Okay. Three levels. Palak is spot on. Vaishnavi has been able to even recall the network level. Ankita is spot on. Sanjay is spot on. Yeah, if anyone can quickly recall that how we can look at, we can add a chronological dimension or chrono dimension to the strategy formulation, and how, kind of it moves from one stage to another and to another, just to, kind of, okay, just to kind of lift that suspense. As you can see, we saw that we can look at strategies from the point of view of entry, growth, retrenchment, and turnaround. Remember, we drew an analogy with the chessboard, and we a game of chess wherein we said that there's an opening game, middle game, and the end game. Keeping in view the competitors' strengths and weaknesses. Okay. So, in terms of the requirements of the chapter 2, we have to look at the dynamics of competitive strategy. And immediate question arises, okay, can there be some other type of strategy also? What is the opposite of competition? Collaboration. So there can be collaborative strategies. However, you will see that the entire, much of the strategic management literature focuses on competitive strategy rather than collaborative strategy. If at all, there might be a chapter in some book on collaboration as a as a strategic choice. And even if we are doing collaborative strategies, what we say is that there may be a collaboration among the network partners, but then one network is competing with another network. Now think in terms of Delhi Metro bidding for such large projects as Metro Rail Corporation. You know that these large projects are not undertaken by a single firm. Rather, these firms form a consortium, and therefore they become a network. And there might be likewise several consortia, and these consortia will be competing for projects of this scale. Incidentally, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, and for the furtherance of the micro, small and medium enterprises, consortium marketing is an advocated strategy for the micro, small and medium enterprises, wherein a big, a lead micro, small and medium enterprise tries to bid for a big contract, and then that big contract is allocated among the the MSME cluster, or MSME consortium. So, however, and there, as I said, there is a lot of cooperation among the collaborating firms. But yes, one collaboration or one cluster is competing with another cluster. So even the collaborative strategies are discussed in the competitive context. So as I said, much of the strategy is discussed within the competitive context, and that is why your study material devotes an entire chapter on the dynamics of competitive strategy. So that, okay. Again, a recall, because we had gone into this question of competition even in our last session, and I had kind of gone into the discussion of competition or nature of competition across the market forms. So can you quickly recall which market form prima facie affords greatest opportunity for strategic behavior? Well, we had said that in certain forms of market structure, there is no opportunity for the strategic behavior by the firm, because a firm is a passive player in the industry. Anyone who can quickly recall? The market forms where there is greatest opportunity for the firm to engage in strategic behavior. Okay, just to lift the wheel of the suspense, as you can see, we had seen that in perfect competition, and in monopoly, which are the theoretical extremes of the market structure, there's little opportunity for strategic behavior. In fact, market imperfections are the germane ground for strategic behavior. And in fact, within this unit, you will be doing strategy groups. So, that correspond to the oligopoly. Yeah, Palak, you were spot on that in perfect competition market, there's little opportunity for strategic behavior. Radha goes on to say, in perfect competition, where no competition exists. No, the competition is so much that there are a large number of firms producing a homogeneous product, and the information asymmetry is zero. So every firm, has the same amount, same quality and quantity of information. So you cannot compete. When do you hope to do better than your competition? When you have better and superior information, is it not? Even in the exams, you will be able to achieve better results than your, competitors or, your, colleagues, only when you turn out better answers through your better knowledge and, kind of information. How well you are read, and how aware you are with business, world of business, reading business magazines, and business segment of the newspaper, then you will be able to kind of turn out there will be an opportunity for strategic behavior. So if everybody is just reproducing what you call the study material in exams, then where will the distinction be, and where will the opportunity to beat the others? Is it not? So in your interpretive, cognitions, and in your associative cognitions, wherein you relate the content of the study material with the day-to-day happenings in the business world, and also with your what you call articulative, kind of skills, wherein you are able to articulate your the knowledge internalized in the form of a crisp and kind of bullseye answer. That your success in the exam lies. So likewise, so when the information is asymmetric, that the strategy for opportunity for strategic behavior will kind of lie. Okay. My second question is to stimulate thinking. Do you think that these market structures remain constant even over a period of time, or do the market structure change, monopolies can be broken, into maybe oligopolies, and maybe competition maybe may result in shakeout, and only a few firms may be left to compete with ourselves. So, what is your take? Are the market structures immutable over time, or they do? A current says that I reduce the speed of my speaking. Okay. So, do you think that the market structures remain rigid, static over a period of time, or do they also change? Mhm. Let us see if there's a response to this. Okay, again, there is a lag. Uh, Before you turn in your responses, and again to lift the wheel of suspicion and think, market structures also do, undergo a change. For example, how long you will keep reaping monopoly rent? Monopolist makes profit not out of the strategy. It is a rent-seeking behavior because there's no other player. So you can take it or leave it bargain, to the customers, right? And almost similar was the case in our pre-liberalization, privatization, and globalization era, because you were sitting on the license, that the government of India gave for industrial production. You enjoyed virtual monopoly. So whether you innovate or you do not innovate, and you bring about improvement in the product, you are the only seller. Customers have no choice. So where there is opportunity for strategic behavior, you can very conveniently sit on your your past laurels, and your laurel is only taking of a license, right? And I am very happy that very many of you, including Palak, Akshay, Rishabh, Radha, Mansha, Miloni, Sneha, and Purushottam, Saikat, Rohit, you acknowledge that it changes, right? And that is where so the basic conditions in the market change, and therefore there might be a case for strategic behavior. Great. Uh, I'll give you another example, because we are doing competition, kind of analysis. How the things change, how the competitive advantages move, and how the companies struggle to regain the lost advantage, and surge ahead, with the new things. Now this FMCG detergent sector, provides you a very interesting kind of a story. You must all be in 1990 born, and so obviously, probably you may not be able to relate to the entire slide, but the story goes like this: that the detergent market in India, I think until 1980s, when Nirma Karsanbhai, brought in, was dominated by one single player, that is Surf, and it was a Unilever or Hindustan Unilever product, right? And it was a near monopoly, dominant position in the market, to be more exact. And so much so, people had identified and internalized Surf, which is a brand name, with the detergent powder. So whenever they will go to the market, much after other brands had also come in, they would say, "Please give me Surf, oh Nirma one." So they had internalized the idea of Surf so much that it reigned in their, kind of minds. After all, a competitive strategy and marketing strategy is not about market share; it is about your occupying your mind share. So that. Uh, so comes in, Nirma, to challenge the hegemony of Surf. And if you remember that Nirma girl, right? washing powder Nirma, and it challenged the might of Surf, the HUL. Initially, Surf thought that this player, may not pose a sustainable challenge. So they made an interim arrangement wherein they brought on the right panel, as you can see, northeast, Lalita ji, to tell that सर्फ की खरीदारी में समझदारी है. So surf, it's an intelligent buy. Buying surf is an intelligent buy. Why? Because you will be using little quantity of surf to generate greater, whiteness and as compared with the other brands. But it did not work. So they brought in another new product called Wheel, and so Wheel was introduced in the lower and middle segment of detergent powders to compete and to take on Nirma, and to drive home the point, they invoked the idea of what you call Sudarshan Chakra, or and the advertisement showed as if the wheel, the Sudarshan Chakra of this powder would cleanse the clothes of all dirt. Story goes on. In the meanwhile, other brands come in. Just to cut it short, now once the market becomes heated, and there are other products competing and vying with each other, and in the meanwhile, electronics revolution, the home electronics revolution took place, and people started using washing machines. Now again, these big wigs take a lead and then introduce kind of new products for automatic machines, and so much so they started discriminating between top loading and front loading machines, and so on and so forth. It was Nirma also caught up with this and brought Nirma Advance. Of course, the story is big. In the meanwhile, Procter and Gamble comes in, Tide comes in, and in the meanwhile, a domestic player, Jyoti Laboratories, comes in with Henko, and the and the fight, is heated. The struggle is heated, and very late entrant Patanjali also, jumps into the fray, and that's how the competition. So, this particular in this particular unit, the first point of emphasis, because it is on the dynamics of the competitive strategy, it talks about the competitive landscape, wherein we are trying to configure who are our present and likely emergent competitors, and how we are going to negotiate our products in the in the changing marketscape on the landscape. So in this context, we will be discussing this particular unit. I have tried to kind of caution, bring in a caution or a caveat here, that this unit introduces a kind of a content bias in the minds of the learner, as if strategy is all about these kind of fights among the corporates, and strategy is all about marketing management or strategic marketing management. Please remember, and that's where we had highlighted the fact in the recall, that strategy is not only marketing, rather it is a comprehensive and integrated plan. So it is not that by, and that's where probably at times theoretically you distinguish between strategy and tactics. So tactics is also a competitive, kind of a maneuvering, but then it is a short-term, very focused, and maybe a limited arena, kind of plan. And strategy, therefore, is a grand design. So it is a unified, comprehensive, and integrated plan. This is an important fact to remember, because the fights at the marketplace really fascinate us. but that is only the tip of strategic management. And like an iceberg, you can see the more significant aspects of strategic management lie underneath. So therefore, Radha's monopoly can be related to brands. The correct word is monopolistic. Yes, if I have a brand equity, that gives me what's the essence of monopoly? Economic power. So that gives me an economic power, and I can dominate the market. So that is it. So as I said, that we need to remember that strategic management is a very deep subject, and what is happening at the marketplace, what is visible to our eyes, is only the tip of the iceberg. There are deep dynamics of the strategic management that we need to be aware of. An important linkage of this chapter is with your chapter 5, which is business level strategy, because competition occurs in the industry. So therefore, the business level strategy, has huge linkage with this chapter. In fact, if you do this chapter well, you have done your business level strategy as well. Although in chapter 5, you are not only talking about competition in the product market, but you are also talking about competition in the factors market and so on. And that is the point that I have been making, that strategy is a unified, comprehensive, and integrated plan. Okay. Now, this strategic mapping, because the unit is about, if you may remember, is highlighting the competitive landscape. This and the landscaping, I have developed for you a one-page note as guidance to studying this particular chapter. In fact, I will be taking right here to read, that note that give you the gist of the entire chapter, and also, generate an anticipation in terms of what to expect. Priya asks me, where does monopoly? No. It is not. The market forms are not mentioned in your syllabus, but an awareness of the market forms will really help you to understand the essence of the competitive strategy, right? So this is a prior knowledge, because this forms of market structure is essential. The understanding of the forms of market structure is essential to the understanding of the dynamics of competitive strategy. I will take a break from this presentation here, and I will take you to a Word document wherein I have developed a special guidance note for you to this chapter on dynamics of competitive strategy. So kindly bear as I shift from the presentation to the Word document, and I will keep it fairly large, and I hope you will be able to see it, but I will be reading it aloud also for your benefit. And if there are any thoughts or queries that arise in your mind, out of this guidance note, you can put it in the question box, and then we will take this up. Yeah. One of the dictionary meanings of landscape is distinctive features of a particular situation. Landscaping thus implies the act or the process of observing and expressing the features or peculiarities or changes therein of the situation. Somebody asked me what is the situation analysis, right? So situation is a whole, right? There are several aspects in the immediate and in the macro environment of the business that comprises the business situation, and also the internal dynamics, right? And this situation has a peculiarity. There are features, and when I am developing a landscape, I am recalling and playing in my mind all those essential, critical, kind of features, and putting it in my, drawing as if it were. So landscaping, is a concept taken from partly from arts, and I will show partly from military, uh, and it is applied to the domain of strategic management. When the concept is transported from the realms of arts and aesthetics to the realms of warfare and business strategy, now please pay attention. It implies marketing or mapping the strong and weak points of the opponents with a view to crafting a battle winning strategy. So I hope the entire logic of no, you need not write, Satish, because this note will be shared with you by the institute along with the presentation. But please stay focused, because, as I said, this note will kind of give you and ready you to read this chapter 2 and derive maximum, kind of learning out of it. In strategic management, competitive landscape thus refers to a process or method of identifying direct or indirect competitors, right? To help comprehend their mission, vision, core values, niche market, strengths, and weaknesses. So, what are we doing? We are identifying who are our direct and who are our indirect competitors. I will delve into the notion of direct and indirect competitors, in my slideshow. And idea is to understand my competitors apart from understanding my own core competencies, so that I can utilize my strengths to to defeat the as if opponents on their weaknesses. And the cognitive faculty of mind and the information input involved here is referred to as competitive intelligence. Allow me to have a 1 minute break as my pets are bothering me. Just a minute. Wait, wait. Sorry for the interruption and welcome back. Uh, so the cognitive faculty of mind and the information input is competitive intelligence. No? The moment we think of intelligence, CBI, CID, and what you call Vyomkesh Bakshi, espionage, etc., comes into picture. But let us face it, the corporations have their own intelligence system, their own information system, where they keep on mapping what the competitors are doing and what they are likely to do, and accordingly they plan their moves, right, with a view to winning the game of competition. So it may be noted that the concern here is not as much painting of the current landscape, because current landscape is known. I know my current competitors, is it not? I know their current strategies, but it is about envisioning and possibly creating future landscape. So can I change the game? Now, for example, when the game between the various detergent brands was heating up, HUL comes with detergent powders for the washing machines. So you have changed the turf, because earlier the turf was for washing with hands, kind of market for detergents. But when the cloth washing is with machines, the landscape is changed. Now the other companies, the other competitors will have to follow you, and you have already surged ahead by taking that first mover, kind of advantage. So as the firm faces direct competition from the other firms in the same industry, the competition is even more direct among the firms of similar size and capabilities. And there is a concept in your syllabus of strategic group. Thus, the strategy makers often rely on the concept of strategic group mapping with a view to identifying the most probable rival in the industry. So maybe you are not competing with every firm, every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You have identified your 4, 5 major competitors. Suppose you are, vying for ranks in chartered accountancy exam. You know that who are those 10, 15, high scorers with whom you are competing. So you determine your competitive landscape with reference to those top scorers, and then pitch your effort in relation to that. Of course, indirect competition cuts across the industries, a point that I will take up, of course, in my presentation, and will draw your attention to. Niche, Radha asked, it's a very specific focus. If you look at the niche, the word niche comes from the ecology, right? So where I develop a special place for myself in the competition landscape. Now, for example, there was a salt, because I have got a salt story up for you in the presentation, Puro. And now the Puro salt is trying to operate in a very specific niche of what you call healthy salt, chemical-free salt, right? Likewise, in the sugar space, companies like Mavana, now, for example, they are focusing on sulfur-free sugar market. So sugar is a commodity, right? But Mavana comes in, with a emphasis on chemical-free, sulfur-free sugar market. So there's a very narrow niche in which the company kind of operates. So it can be called as super specialty, right? Now, continuing with the reading. The competitive landscaping is an important phase of strategic analysis that involves a detailed analysis of firms' internal strengths and weaknesses. So I hope now you can link the competitive landscaping with the strategic analysis. So strategic analysis becomes a bigger concept, because here you are not only looking at the competition, but also looking at the firm's internal strengths and weaknesses, besides landscaping the competitive arena of the firm. And idea is to develop a payoff, reward, or risk matrix. This matrix can be used to assess the effectiveness of the past, current, and planned strategic choices of the firm. That is where the dynamism comes. The moment we use the time element, the dynamic. Static is at a point of time. It is called a snapshot view of the competition. But we are not interested in the snapshot, today's competition. We are all interested in tomorrow's competition. And maybe we will use yesterday's competition and today's competition, and knowledge gained from it, to combat or to face tomorrow's competition. So like success in life, and how do we face it? Success in business lies in playing to one's core competence. What are our strengths? So, and we have to utilize our strengths to, win in the competitive situation. The prefix dynamic to the chapter title emphasizes the changing landscape. Competition does not remain the same. We have just seen in the detergent business model. It keeps changing, and therefore I have to be dynamic inside also to be able to uh, cope with the changing competition. And last observation, which is in sync with your study material, that for the last 3 decades or so, the changes in the competitive landscape have been marked by increasing globalization. So the last topic in your syllabus is the globalization. Why? Because globalization has altered the competition landscape for the firms. So the moment we allowed the foreign automobile companies to come in, the competition landscape changed. For example, Ambassador car that reigned on the Indian automobile market, in a near monopoly situation, was actually taken aback by the competition from the other companies. Of course, in the mid 80s, we had also brought in Maruti, right? So therefore, competition does not remain static; it keeps on changing, and the major change occurred in the, for example, Indian competitive landscape was recourse to globalization and opening of the Indian economy to the players from the other world. So I have, kind of proposed a further change in the competitive landscape of the firm, wherein I have said the world is poised for a chronological divide between pre-COVID and post-COVID times. Our Prime Minister has also been, kind of, yeah, Pure, Sanjay, you are absolutely spot on. Uh, um, the the Prime Minister has said that now the world will be divided into the pre-COVID and the post-COVID times. Now the question is, what is the likely competitive landscape in the post-COVID times, and how the world of business and strategic management going to compete with it? So this is all about the concept note that I have developed that will be eventually shared with you. I hope it gives you a kind of a unified, kind of understanding of the Unit 2 as a whole, to which I come once again. So as you can see, this unit is about competitive landscape. It is about strategic analysis. It talks about core competencies. It talks about globalization, right? And I had said that this landscaping can be linked to the military. On the same slide, on the left-hand side, you can see that a military strategist is is elaborating a landscape, to the fellow, commanders, and trying to explain where the enemy, as if it were, is situated, what are his strengths and weaknesses. You have seen this kind of analysis going on in the media, and even at the government level, between India and the standoff between India and China in Ladakh. They explain the relative positions of the two, competing armies, and that's how this world has come, from has a military connotations, war connotations also. We had done this already, so I will move on more with the competitive landscape. Uh, Planning. Uh, yeah. After the detergents, I will be taking up the salt story to explain the competitive landscaping, and I will link it to the you to the Satish asks, they will be competitive fight war forever. Um, Probably you are saying that this this competition will never be over, or uh, yeah, I mean to say, the landscape changes and the nature of competition changes, and maybe we learn our lessons. And I think if at all, business world is full of wars, as you are trying to suggest, I think it's all about choosing which war to fight, which battle to fight, and which battle to ignore. That's also very important, because our energies and our resources are limited. We cannot, spreading our resources very thinly on all the battlefronts. And that is why it is very important to understand who is our nearest rival, with whom we are actually fighting this business game. So, from one mega story of detergents, to drive home the competitive landscape, I'm moving on to another important, another story from the FMCG sector, to the salt, because the salt story gives you both historical, military, and kind of definitely market, kind of flavors into the game of strategy. And salt has been very precious. Wars have been fought over salt, and salt was once traded for gold. So, and the picture on the left is indicative of Gandhiji's Dandi March, where he actually rattled the spine of the British Empire by breaking the salt laws, right? And by the way, the word salary also comes from salt. So therefore, the prominence and the salience of salt has been a ground of struggle and war between the nations. And I am going to talk about another war that is about the prominent brands in the salt industry. As you can see, that Indian salt market, India ranks third in the production of salt in the world, next to USA and China. And as far as the home consumption goes, that's the supply side. So on the demand side, our market is about 40% about branded salt and 60% about unbranded salt. And of course, among the branded salt market, Tata salt. Captain Cook was a separate brand, but then Tata acquired it. So it accounts for nearly 2/3 of the market. And then there is Annapurna brand, and of course there are other smaller brands. Nirma also has come out with salt. Now, in this, this is the competitive landscape, and by and large, the entire branded market has been the market for iodized salt. Now, in this, if one has to kind of push in, and enter and penetrate, you have to have a very different kind of a strategy. And comes in Puro. I think it is probably Procter and Gamble. Again, there's a big company behind this Puro brand. If somebody can quickly recall, that would be an awesome thing to do. So here comes Puro, that kind of ridicules all the established brands by saying that these salts contain chemicals. But all these salts are. By the way, I hope you are aware that 90% of salt in India, over 90%, I think 95% of salt in India is manufactured by very small, kind of farmers. Now it is harvested. There are salt fields. Those who are from Gujarat would be knowing it better. So it is cultivated or it is harvested. Salt is harvested maybe by seawater or other means, by the small players. But then ultimately the big players, come in and they brand it, and they clean it, and then they shine it, and then they add iodine to this, and that's how the market, kind of happens. So here comes Puro, challenges the established players and says that, okay, all these salts carry chemicals. So if you want to lead a healthy life and ensure the health of the family, then you should use Puro. And if you remember the Puro advertisements, the TV commercials, etc., the kind of color scheme that they have used, as you can see here, the very pastel colors, and Tata is harping on Desh Ka Namak, right? And then the Puro comes in with the salt for healthy living argument, light pink, light purple, background, and creating that aura of, health and wellness, right? So you come in. So what you do is that the competitive landscape, at times the firms also try to alter that, they change the landscape. Maybe by entering a particular niche, niche was a concern that, and then by just entering into the market, they spread themselves. They start eating into the market share of other players, right? So therefore, the competitive landscape is never static. It is always changing, and in fact, it is in this change that the opportunities and the threats arise for the firms, and what you call the occasion for strategic behavior, occurs, and the firms therefore, kind of, pull up their resources and salts to, take on to the competition. So I have taken two major ITC. Okay, Oro is from ITC. Janvi, thank you so much for correcting. Sanjay says it's from Torrent Pharma. No, I doubt it's not from Torrent Pharma. Sanjay, I think ITC could be probably correct. You can just do Google it and get back to me on this answer portal. Great. So the competitive landscape, what it is, whether it is static or dynamic, we have tried to, kind of go into these questions. And the thing is that are the companies shaped by the competitive landscape, or they also try to, influence it through their strategic behaviors? These are the issues that we have tried to look into through the discussion so far. If there are any questions till now, I will be very happy to take this, because I will be taking up another FMCG sector and an interesting story after this. Yeah, if there are any questions on the competitive landscape. And hitherto we have just focused on examples from within the domestic economy, right? Although the players could be multinational, such as Unilever. Annapurna is a Unilever product, you know that. So we will now be taking an important, another example from the services, consumer services sector, and another interesting dimension to the whole, kind of. Amansha asks, do the product line taglines matter in creating the brand equity? Yes, brand equity is the sum of, what you call advantages accruing to the firm through a brand, right? How that brand is internalized and ingrained into the psychology of the consumers, and as I said, it is all about market, not market share. It's all about mind share. And how these companies, like, for example, Coca-Cola say, "Thanda matlab," in our homes, whenever somebody asks, we ask, "Aap thanda lenge ya garam lenge? Will you like to have a hot beverage or a cold beverage?" And how they leverage this very very ubiquitous question, because if anybody comes to your home, any guest comes in, you ask this question, whether you like to have cold how they use this ubiquitous question to generate a brand identity. No, and Pepsi is then kind of feels challenged, and it has to come with equally kind of a ubiquitous and equally matter of fact kind of an argumentation in the advertising warfare when the protagonist in the Pepsi advertisement says Pepsi thi pia. So, again, a matter of fact response to a matter of fact, advertisement campaign by Coca-Cola. All said and done, as I said, marketing excites you. The fights at the marketplace excite you, and as I said, this unit has a marketing bias, marketing management, as if it has been written by somebody who specializes into marketing strategy. But however, as I said, whatever you are seeing on TV commercials and things, it is only the tip of the iceberg. Strategic management is a deep, deep discipline, and therefore we have to always keep cautioning ourselves. Okay, this excites me. The goings on in the market excite me, but there is a deeper, kind of a theory and deeper dynamics involved, which as a student and a learner in strategic management, I have to, I have to catch up with. Okay. So Sanjay comes in with the input that Euro is manufactured and packed by VS Dixon Healthcare Private Limited and marketed by Puro Wellness Private Limited. Sanjay, please also check whether Puro Wellness belongs to some big staple. So are you right? You could be right that it is a Torrent Pharma kind of is. It comes from the Torrent Pharma staple. Yeah. So you could be right, Sanjay, and thank you so much for this this information. You have researched well. That helps us to each one of us. Yeah. Okay. I see no questions as yet. You seem to be kind of enjoying yourselves with. Somebody said, "What is a market? A place where market is happening. Cutthroat is happening." And probably it excites you, but as I said, this excitement apart, I need to say, there are deeper nuances of the subject that we need to kind of negotiate and deal and immerse ourselves into. Another interesting competitive landscape, which gives some other interesting dimension to the competitive strategy. That is the Starbucks. So if I were to do a Starbucks competition, what you call landscape mapping, and look at the direct and the indirect, kind of competitors of Starbucks. Because Starbucks, apart from offering coffee, is offering certain light snacks, pastries and pastries and some patties and so on. And there are some direct competitors like Costa Coffee, right, clothing jeans, US, right, and in other 39 countries. There are other regional players, and I have added to this the India story. If you remember, there was a big legal fight between Starbucks and Sardar Baksh Coffee and Company. Right? I hope you recall this legal battle between Starbucks and Sardar Baksh Coffee and Company, and how for example, the competition also has a legal dimension to it, and if you are kind of accused of and you are held guilty of using certain restrictive and unfair kind of trade practices, then you might have to kind of give in. And in this case, that the Starbucks won the case, and Starbucks had to withdraw. Look at their logos; they were also designed suggestively similar. Starbucks Coffee and Company label was suggestively designed similar, and that's where they were challenged. So this story, therefore, brings in to discussion the legal and ethical aspects of competition. Mind you, whenever we are talking of competition and when we're doing cutthroat, we are not saying that you have to attain means fair or foul to win a competitive kind of a battle. Um, there are rules of the game, and in fact, institutions are there to set those rules of the game. And one has to play the game and play it well. If one were to use the motto of Olympics, right? So you are competing, but you compete fairly, with the others, and try to win on merit, and rather than foul means. So there is a yeah, Coffee Day is an Indian challenge to Starbucks. Kiran, spot on, good job and good example. That is how participants like Palak asked me what is FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. Palak, I hope it is clear. Now, it is participants like you who enliven the classroom and also challenge and charge us to give in our best to generate a kind of understanding that that enthuses you to further deep delve into the subject and look at your study material very critically and don't mug up the things and understand these things and kind of develop a good understanding and also develop yourselves into a strategic thinker rather than only as a student. You are the future chartered accountants. As I said, we will be inviting you to our colleges and universities to give special lectures in the specialization domains. So therefore, you start now rather than waiting for your chartered accountancy to complete. So therefore, the competitive landscape we have delved very deep with respect to its various dimensions, and in this slide we have brought in the ethical legal aspects of a competitive landscaping. Hats off to the strategy thinkers in the firms and the corporates, the CEOs and the CEOs and the board of directors, who preside over and sit in the strategy meetings, and all those consultants who keep on, working on what you call the future emerging competitive landscapes, and how the firms, kind of may engage themselves, with those competitive landscapes to stay ahead, to do better than the average. Okay. Now, the chapter talks about the steps involved in the industry and competitive analysis. And for this competitive, kind of landscaping, this Starbucks is an Indian company. Tata has invested in it, right? So Isha, Starbucks is a foreign brand, right? Yeah. So we have elaborated on the industry and competitive analysis content from your study material, and I'll be spending some time at I think 7 to 10 minutes on this slide to explain the nuances of the industry and competitive analysis. So as you can see, your study material says that you have to identify the competitors and near, distant, present, and emergent.
a point that I had mentioned in my introductory slides, I had said that, okay, the meaning, competition derives its meaning uh, within the context of the industry, because all the firms are competing in what is their arena of competition? The industry. So they, if there's an aviation industry, so then the different firms are competing for their space in that aviation industry. Mancha, I will come to your question a little later, wherein you have asked whether privatization is the only solution. I will come to it a little later at an appropriate time. However, I think it is Milton Friedman or maybe John Maynard Keynes who said all industries are competing with each other for consumers, kind of a pocket or consumers pocket share or a uh, you know uh, household consumption budget. You know, you would have experience in your households that okay, the kids say, let's holiday, let's go holiday, and comes the argument, okay, during summers we want to go to the hill station, but why not spend it on air conditioning? Let us have an air conditioner at home with the same expenditure that we will be incurring for travel and stay in a hill station, that too for a few days. Now, what has happened? Now, the travel and tour industry is competing with the electronical appliances industry, air conditioning industry. So, therefore, ultimately, all industries are competing with each other for getting a share in the pocket of the customers. Is it not? Yet, predominantly, the competitive analysis is kind of synonymous with the industry analysis, and because we always define competition with reference to the industry, and of course I have already um, Second talks about PUBG and 4G, yeah, and how, for example, this political decision, change in the political environment, wherein certain Chinese apps have been banned, has altered the competitive landscape. Now, this competitive landscape has been altered not by the acts of the companies, right? By the participants, in the competition. It has been changed by the basic conditions. For example, the government has altered the rules of the game. So that is also a facet of your competitive landscape. So, and as I said, the competition is shaped not only by the firms here. It is not that PUBG has done something wrong, that PUBG is losing out on Indian market, right? But what has happened is that there has been a change in the basic conditions, basic rules of the game, and this change has been brought about by the government, right? Government policy, that the competitive landscape has changed. It has meant maybe death knell for Chinese app companies in India, and it has triggered a kind of a birth rate among the domestic counterparts, right? So I had taken up this issue even in my last session, wherein we had seen that what happened when Weibo was, kind of sent packing to be the lead advertiser for the title advertiser for the IPL. Okay, so carry on. As I said, this slide is key to the whole uh, kind of chapter. So the chapter says you ascertain the industry features, identify. Now all this is rational analysis, economic analysis, but how politics changes the economics. So therefore, strategic management. That's why integratedness. It is unified nature, and is very important to understand, because here the dynamic of competitive strategy is coming not from the actions of the competitors, any of the competitors, but from an exogenous, extraneous factor called government policy, right? So all this rational analysis collapses because PUBG would have done its marketing, it would have done analysis to gain the market share and the mind share in India. But all that rationality is thrown to a toss by the one stroke of pen by the government policy, right? So, and these are the pitfalls of lopsided analysis in strategic management, right? So, develop the criteria on which you are going to assess the competitors or assess the competition. Is it going to be the capital investment? Is it going to be the market share? Is it going to be the differentiation? Is it going to be brand equity? So you have to develop the criteria and you have to score the competitors. You have to anticipate their moves and you have to anticipate the industry trends. Once again. And as you can see on the right panel and the discussion that I have been making, it is not easy to define the industry. And when it comes to customers' pocket, all industries are competing with each other. The point that I have highlighted. I have devised a very simple two-dimensional competitive analysis matrix. So I can plot my competitors like military strategies on a map on the various criteria, and if I take a total score, then I can plot the competitors on that score and identify their positions and in a way contemplate in terms of what am I going to do to dislodge them from their positions and occupy their position. That is the military language coming into marketplace, is it not? So, by the way, one has to be very conscious also of the language that one uses, and it affects our psyche because the moment we look at strategic management and the world of business and equate it with the war, then somehow we are telling ourselves anything is fair in love, war, and business. So we forget the ethics and the laws of the rules of the game. So this is how the language shapes our thinking, and how this language has been responsible for constant neglect of the nature ecology in our industrial and strategic management thinking, that we have been polluting the rivers and polluting the forests and clearing the forests and mindlessly exploiting the minerals from the surface of the earth for fulfilling our greed, and in the process have put our future and the future of our coming generations at peril, right? And the kind of natural calamities that have happened, especially in the recent past, how it has happened. Okay, Harsh wants me to talk more on the mobile market, and Saikath is drawing attention to Amazon, JioMart, and Flipkart. Yeah, JioMart we talked about in our 2nd September interaction, and we looked at how Facebook's, picking up of the largest share in the minority stakeholding of Reliance is going to alter the competitive landscape in the retail industry and in the telecom industry as well as if it were. Okay. We had therefore seen that strategic analysis, and this is our, of course, very fundamental, understanding of strategy, that strategic analysis is and different from the competition analysis, because competition analysis focuses only on the environment, the competitive environment in the product market, whereas a strategic analysis will also look at the resources of the firm. And that's where the chapter makes a transition now from the competitive landscape to the competencies and capabilities of the business firm. So as we are poised to make this transition in our subsequent slides of strategic analysis, I will take a 5 minute break, and I'll come back to you. And I hope by this time you will also, kind of reflect upon, whatever has been transacted in this session so far. And if there are any questions that arise in your mind, you might raise those questions, which I will be taking up definitely in the second leg of this session today. So a 5 minute break for everyone this session. Vijay ji, are you there? Hello, Vijay ji, are you there? मेरा नहीं है, मेरा ही होगा। टेबल से ले लिया होगा मेरे दूसरे बंदों को मेरे से हेलो विजय जी, आर यू देयर विजय जी? कैन वी हेलो हेलो विजय जी, कंट्रोल्स, हेलो हेलो। हेलो विजय जी, हेलो कंट्रोल्स, कैन वी स्टार्ट? हेलो हेलो विजय जी, आर यू देयर? कैन वी स्टार्ट?
Sir, I think you are online. Students
Okay,
are writing.
okay, 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 great, okay, great. I mean, expecting. So, is it now okay? Audio and visual both are. I am already online. Chirag has corrected me, and so has Ruchi ma'am from ICAI. That's great. So, to the question that that competition score. No, the matrix that I developed in the previous slide. Yes, as I said, we can maybe develop a what you call scale 1 to 10, and on each of the criteria that we follow to measure the kind of competition, I can score my. Here I have taken 5 criteria. Maybe there can be more criteria of competition, and then I can score them, and the relative score. Um, of the competitors indicates their, competition power, bargaining power, as if it were. And then I have to see where I have to pitch my, strategic thrust. Is it not? So the score is nominal scoring, as you call it. But nevertheless, consultants and the firms they do it. Otherwise, how do you get the most respected brands and what you call best places to work? So these kind of ratings do occur. So likewise, in the competitive landscaping, I can do this kind of analysis. That is the suggestion that I made, and as I said, I have to pick my rivals. I am not fighting with everyone, is it not? So I have to pick my rivals and then position my firm and my company vis-a-vis those kind of rivals. Okay. Anything else? No, I think, Mansha, to your query, privatization. No, I mentioned that this privatization and globalization changed the competitive scape. Now, for good, bad, or ugly, it's a very relative, kind of question. But general thinking has been, in the management literature and economics literature, that competition is good. I think there is a prefix which we do not use and which we often forget. Healthy competition is. What happens, and therefore there's a big distinction, big distinction between competition and rivalry. Because the moment I start taking my competition and competitors as rivals, then I forget the rules of the game. I forget the laws and I forget the ethics, and I am out there to kind of decimate my opponents, by right means or by the wrong means. So whether we are studying business or economics, we must therefore never lose sight of law, and above law, ethics, because the ethics begin where the law ends. So I hope I have clarified this issue also, and let's move on therefore to the second leg of this chapter, which is equally kind of interesting, but somewhat more intrigue. And let us see, that's why the institute has kept 2 sessions of 2.5 hours each, 5 hours for this particular unit, to kind of account for the intrigue. I have already critiqued this unit in terms of its excessive emphasis on the product markets, and I have repeatedly said that strategic. What we see at the marketplace is only the tip of the iceberg. The dynamics of strategy lies somewhere deep, down. The whole ethos and philosophies of the corporations and the thinking that takes place at the strategic apex of the organizations. So we need to read the mind of the strategist as if it were a tall order, but we can always try. I will skip this animation. I will, as I said, move to this. Yeah. Strategic analysis. This is again one of an important figures taken from your study material. I have just uh, left out the details of external analysis and internal analysis. Just focused on these broad areas of strategic analysis, and I have shown how it results into that 2x2 matrix that the other day that I talked about. SWOT matrix. Uh, so strategic analysis is different from kind of competitive landscaping, because competitive landscaping belongs to the realms of external analysis. That's the essential point that you need to keep in mind at the moment, in sync with the tone and tenor of the chapter. I will be building on some of the ideas from here onwards. The whole idea here is to in the competitive, in the language of competitive, how to use my strengths to take advantage of opportunities and to withstand competitive threats, right? And of course, if at all I have to win the competition, I have to overcome my weaknesses, and I have to find out ways of avoiding the threats. So when I am doing the competitive landscaping, I need not engage with a very tough rival. Now, as I said, I must choose my battles wisely. If I pick up a battle with a large player, then my entire organizational energy will be devoted to defending my position, and I would lose out on business, right? So my job is to do business, not to defeat someone, is it not? My job is to make earn return on investment for my investors, rather than thrive in a kind of an egoistic pleasure of defeating a big kind of a player. So therefore, this SWOT analysis, therefore, also is contextualized with reference to the competition analysis. As I said, the entire strategic management, or much of the three-fourths, or maybe even more of the strategic management, thrives on competition, right? The focus is on competition, not collaboration. And as I said, even if we talk of collaboration, then even then we are talking about competition among collaborative networks, right? So we never lose. We like competition so much as if it were, and that's why some of you have written that okay, competition probably will always be there, is it not? Radha asks me, example of healthy competition. Well, okay. So, if you remember, after the liberalization, Coca-Cola was there in India before it was banned in 1970s, to be exact, in 1977. And if you remember, in 77, we came out with an indigenous cola brand called Double Seven. The Double Seven was also signified the victory of the Janata Party over the Congress Party after the emergency period, and this Janata Party came with a kind of a mandate or a promise of sending these multinational corporations out of India, and all these multinational, IBM, Coca-Cola, etc., were sent packing. So, to cut the long story short, when the liberalization occurred in the 1990s, Coca-Cola was first to come in, correctly. Pepsi came in later, and when Pepsi came, Coca-Cola came with full-length advertisements in all national dailies, welcoming Pepsi. This is called healthy competition. Yeah, we are battling it out. We are coming after one advertising strategy, after another, right? Yeah, we'll fight it tough. No doubts about it. I will make you run for your money, but by the right means, and I will respect you as a competitor. That is called healthy competition. I will respect you, even in the boxing and even in wrestling. You are as if vying for each other's blood. But when the game is over, you do a handshake and you hug each other. That's called healthy. As I said, that is at times where we pick up our language, lingo from. The strategic language jargon has come from the military, and somehow willy nilly we have thought, my survival depends on by killing others. Is it not? Whereas, suppose this lingo was to come from the world of sports, then probably we would have seen a more healthy competition and more healthy competitive practices across the industry sectors. I hope it as you. Mancha says that you're healthy. Radha says, or can it be said there is a thin line and a major difference? Now, there's a major difference in the sense that strategic analysis will focus on the company's strengths and weakness. I hope it rests the argument for everybody, and we are clear on this particular count. I will give it a kind of a miss for the time being, and in the meanwhile, probably I will take up another important dimension of your syllabus that talks about the core competencies. Is it not? The strengths, the relative strengths, or the competitive advantages of the strength, the firm are captured in the core competence argument, and I will build this core competence theory argument in detail with you right here, and I'm sure you will be able to see the point that I'm trying to make. And this point, is Mansha asked whether these companies use portfolio analysis. I will take it up, Mansha, when I reach there, definitely. But let me, at the moment, focus on the other dimension of strategic analysis, because the first dimension, that is the competitive landscaping, that we have already dealt with in great detail, right? The core competence theory, in a sense, I'm devising a learning object for you, right here, so that in the liveliness of the development of the content, you can also see and learn, kind of better, as if it were. Okay. Yeah. So this yellow will kind of distinguish that this is a live content being exclusively developed for you here. This core competence theory has its roots in what you call resource-based view, RBV, of the firm. Even in class 12, and we generally say that firm is not only influenced by the environment, but it also influences it. But the question is, how does it influence, right? The resource-based view of the firm says define firms as a bundle of resources, right? Every individual is a bundle of resources, your knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. These are your resources. In the case of the firm, it's physical infrastructure, it's human resources, right? It's technology. All these are the resources that a firm has. Every firm has, every individual has resources. Now, the firm and the individual combines these resources into competencies and capabilities. And through these competencies and capabilities, they try to negotiate with the business environment. So there's a competitive landscape, fine. Every competitor has strengths, weaknesses. We have scored them, fine. But we also have some strengths, right? And therefore, we also have resources. This could be financial resources, as I said. This could be physical infrastructure. This could be human resources. And I would utilize these resources to shape the business environment, influence the business environment, or to mitigate the adversarial influence of the business environment, or to leverage the opportunities thrown up by the business environment. So, core competence theory given by our own management thinker from India, Dr. C.K. Prahlad, is no more, takes this resource-based view of the firm. And the argument that is built in that, okay, every individual has resources, every firm has resources, but just a minute, I don't want to bring in over here, I will do here. Yeah. That all the resources, are not a source of some resources could lead to strategic advantage. Right? So not all the resources will yield the strategic advantage. Now, just as preparing for your exam, study material you have and all other aspirants in the Inter 7B strategic management paper have. So an understanding of this study material cannot be a source of strategic advantage unless and until you endow it with your own unique interpretations and supplementation, for what you call above average performing answers. Now the question arises, what are the qualities, no, what are the attributes of the resources that endow them the property of being a source of strategic advantage to the firm? Usha says 7 is not available. No, it definitely is not available. And thumbs up related, I don't think so, because 7 was the product and brand of modern food industries. Remember, there used to be modern bread also. So it was I think, public sector, kind of undertaking. Thumbs up is now a Coca-Cola brand, but it was otherwise a Chauhan. It came from Chauhan's staple, Gold Spot and Thumbs Up, and Limca. They came from Chauhan's staple. These market stories, they really excite you. But right now we are doing something more serious and deeper, as I said, to the whole discipline of strategic management. To even at the cost of repetition, let us understand core competence theory is nestled in the resource-based view of the firm. Resource-based view of the firm says that all the firms, or a firm, is a bundle of resources.
Not all resources, however, are a source of strategic advantage. Only some resources are a source of competitive advantage. And then the question arises: are there any attributes, that make a particular resource a source of strategic? Please understand the difference between resource and source. A particular resource being a source of competitive advantage, and that's where these four attributes come into interplay that I will be kind of highlighting for your benefit, so that you are able to understand it better. Orange attracts. Yeah. So the resource has to be valuable. Now, question is, how does the resource acquire this valuable attribute? For example, when it can be put to diverse uses, right? Then it becomes valuable. In fact, resource by itself is something that creates utility, right? Is it not? So it has to be valuable. For example, uh, silicon, and if you have obviously it is a competence. If you can extract silicon from sand, it becomes a hugely valuable resource, is it not? Now, rare. It should not be easily available, because if it is easily available, then anybody can acquire it, right? This is true of your individual's strategic advantage also. What is that rare quality in you? In marketing language, it's called USP, unique selling proposition, right? What is that makes you stand from the rest, right? What is that rare quality kind of in you? And then the quality, those should be such that people should not be able to copy it, imitate it, right? And imitations remain imitations, originals remain original. You have to be so good, right, that nobody can copy it. Nobody can copy you. Because if they can copy you, then your competitive advantage is gone. And to the extent, knowledge is such a resource, tacit knowledge is such a resource, that companies spend a huge amount of money on knowledge management, intellectual property, so that nobody can copy your patents and kind of technology and things like that. You have to preserve that rareness and valuable attributes of your sources. Non-substitutable. Because if I can substitute one resource with another, right, then my competitive advantage is gone, right? So, non-substitutable. And that's why when I said that all industries are competing with each other, maybe you are thriving on aluminum body of your mobile phone or your laptop computer, and your competitor, substitutes it with plastics, ABS, or even glass bodies, unbreakable glass bodies, which are more economical than the aluminum and the metal, and you are able to kind of snatch the competitive advantage arising out of your access to aluminum, is it not? So, 4 attributes in strategic management literature
that endow a resource with the qualities such that it becomes a source of competitive advantage are valuableness, rareness, non-substitutability, and non-immutability, right? So I hope you are getting the logic of the core competence theory. This is a supplement. Probably it is not there in your study material, but I am sure you will appreciate that the resources and capabilities, when they together make, what is the capability? Capability is to uniquely combine these resources into a core competence. Different companies can have different core competencies. Your example, your study material also contains various examples of core competencies, right? Sony, for example, thrives on miniaturization, right? And this competitive advantage leads to the superior performance. So you can see the essence of strategic management that lies in enabling a firm to the superior performance, according to the core competence theory, lies in the unique resources and capabilities of the firm that lead to the development of a core competence based upon how valuable, rare, non-substitutable, and non-immutable are those resources and capabilities, and therefore enable a firm to do better than the competitor. That is, in brief, competence of core competence theory. So, even at the cost of repetition, we have kind of moved on to the discussion of these core competencies, which is another core of your chapter 2, from the realms of what you call competitive landscaping, because competitive landscaping was external, and strategic analysis includes not only external but also internal, and that's where we are right now, and we are focusing on the core competencies. Hope it is clear, and I will put it on the slideshow for better visibility for a couple of minutes for you to be able to internalize and assimilate essential idea about the core competence theory originating from the resource-based view of the firm. And if there are any questions, I would be very happy to respond to. Okay, moving on then. And, we talked about the core competencies, and this tree diagram I have especially developed. I'm not very good at painting, but I have used a tree metaphor to talk about the core competence, and I regard this core competence as a root system of a diversified conflict. Right? So how I utilize these core competencies to develop, a range of products, or to participate in the development of a range of products. Now, for example, display systems, right? So suppose my core competence is development of display systems, right? Retina eye and more advanced display systems. Now these display systems are needed on phones, smartphones. These display systems are needed on laptops, on computers. These display systems are using for outdoor display system such as OOH, out of home advertising, and so on and so forth. And because this competence of developing the display system can be applied variously. Now this makes it very valuable. I will take a kind of a break from this diagram. I will come back to this diagram once again, to highlight one more aspect, in one more aspect of this core competence, and this will help you in your personal career planning also. Is this, and I will utilize the same slide for your benefit. That whenever we are planning our career, whenever the company is kind of working on its strengths, capabilities, one is that we have to look at the domains. So chartered accountants are good at in accounting and finance, right? This is your domain. This is your arena. The other dimension, which is equally important and which will give you a competitive advantage, over the rest, is that how this domain is. I call it as a transferable skill. Suppose I'm in marketing. I'm good at convincing others and negotiating and so on. This is a skill that I have, and this can be applied in different spheres. And the other, therefore, dimension of competitive advantage that I say is the industry verticals. Sorry, I'll get wrong. So, question is, I will be valuable when I am able to diversify my knowledge of marketing across the different industry verticals. That will make me very valuable. Suppose I have a competence in teaching management, right? So, and if I can use this competence for teaching, strategy, if I can, marketing and finance and so on and so forth, this makes me more valuable, is it not? So, therefore, the core competencies or any competency or any resource, in order to be, kind of valuable, will become so when I have the unique capability of using that resource across different industry, vertical, right? So, yeah. Now, as I said, the core competencies will lead to development of certain core products and emergence of the specific business units or SBUs. Even in the context of strategic management, right? As I said, I should think of my core competencies across the different verticals and miniaturization. Suppose I can make everything small, right? A big computer into a small palm type computer, variable computer. So I can help making humanoids. Humans and machines are embedded in your system. So I just do these fingers and the screen is built, and I can kind of log in onto the cloud just without this. So, how am I using a particular core competence and applying it in different spheres, right? So that is, so if my technology is my core competence, information and communication technology is my core competence. Now, how I can apply it to different domains. Now, for example, I can apply ICT to education. That's what I am doing now. I can apply ICT to retails. That is what e-commerce industries are doing. I can apply this ICT to finance. That is what the fintech is, kind of doing. I can use ICT in medicine, what telemedicine is doing. and how that some doctors from Mumbai have developed a kind of telemedicine system to deal with the COVID patients remotely, and how now they are planning to diversify and to expand this system of telemedicine to the rural belt of India, with a view to providing them a sustainable health solution, whereby a person sitting in a village can avail of the expertise of a prime hospital, and wherever in the country, or maybe wherever in the world. So so therefore this core competence theory, what it does is that it turns your attention inward, and that is what strategy analysis does. It not only focuses on the competitive landscape, it also focuses on your internal kind of strengths. So the core competence theory brings it back to the firm. So here the firm has to kind of be in conversation with itself, and to ask, for example, what do we have the core competency? What are our core competencies? And whether these core competencies will help us achieve our business objectives. And therefore another way of looking at the strategic management, or the success in business, is to kind of ask the questions for career planning also. What are my core competencies, and what type of careers will be more appropriate for the kind of core competencies? So an inward analysis, what you call looking within. In philosophy, there is a approach of looking within to get a feel of without, is it not? So within and without are all, without means outside, are all linked up. So philosophically, therefore, this C.K. Prahlad's theory of core competence allows the firm to delve deeper into this. Dada tells me that she's not very clear about the difference between the resources and source. I said resources are the things that are owned and controlled by an enterprise. You call them assets in your financial language term. But how these assets are to be used, how they become a source of competitive advantage. Is it not? So I hope it's it's semantics, it's language. So I hope you are able to kind of understand. So how a particular resource becomes a source of competitive advantage. In order that a resource becomes a source of competitive advantage, it has to have certain qualitative attributes. What are the qualitative attributes? It has to be valuable, it has to be rare, it has to be non-imitable, it has to be non-substitutable. So these are the four attributes in the resource-based view. This resource-based view of the firm was put forward by James Barney, and to my mind, he is the biggest name in the resource-based view of the firm. And the industry structure view, of course, is Michael Porter, and that's why I said there's a big synergy between chapter 2 that you are doing now and chapter 5 that you will later. Chapter 5 is all about industry analysis, and there we use Michael Porter's framework, work on the industry structure. It's also called industrial organization theory. Okay, I hope the point is clear. ICT, what is this ICT with respect to education? Radha, please be clear what you are talking about. I am not able to kind of understand what you are trying to ask. ICT, what is that? ICT, I said. Probably you heard me wrong, or maybe I was not clear enough in speaking. ICT, information and communication technology. So I said if a firm has core competence in the area of information and communication technology, it can be used in the diverse domains. It can be, as I said, education. It can be medicine, right? Of course, it can be into development of software products. It can be for retailing, and so on and so forth. So I hope I have clarified Radha you on this. Okay. Uh, so this is again a supplement which will help you internalize the core competence theory of C.K. Prahlad, and and also to understand the importance of looking inwards, the internal analysis in strategic management. Once again, even at the cost of repetition, please understand strategy analysis includes both external analysis, which for the limited sense of this chapter comprises the competitive landscaping, and also internal analysis, which again, from the perspective, limited perspective of this chapter, comprises the focus on core competencies. And in the internal analysis of the competencies of the firm, which in a way, theoretically derived from the resource-based view theory of the firm, the focus is on identifying those resources and capabilities. I distinguish between a resource and a capability, in terms of the ability to mix and match these resources into formidable competitive advantage. So when these resources are rare, valuable, rare, non-substitutable, and non-imitable. So if I were to close this Prahlad's theory of core competence, it goes like this. I will spend about 5 minutes on this particular slide, and slow pace, so that this gets ingrained in your understanding. This model rests on the assumption, and this assumption is very realistic, as I have said, that firm is a bundle of competencies. Every individual has or is a bundle of competencies. I hope it is clear. And the goal here is to have a sustainable competitive. It is not to win a battle, again to borrow the language of military, but to win a war. And it is not only surviving today, it is also about thriving in future. So how I can utilize my resources to reach or achieve the goal of sustainable competitive. How will that be achieved? Through the unique capability of the firm to, philosophically, the entire world is made of 5 elements, for example. Yet we see such a big variety, is it not? So, the resources are there. What differentiates me is my ability to integrate those resources. That is the beauty of network. These resources may be owned by different people, different companies. But I have a great capability of system. So I am able to integrate the diverse resources, not necessarily owned by me, by different firms, into a unique capability. Facebook, for example, thrives on millions of what you call developers. Android, for example, the telephone platforms. There are millions of Android application, makers, or what you call iOS for that is for Apple, application developers. and how these so many diverse people, for Facebook or for Android or for that matter Apple operating system, they are integrated into a formidable competitive advantage. Is it not? So my lies in picking up those Navratnas. Akbar was great strategist, is it not? So he used those Navratnas to make a formidable business empire that was admired by all and respected by all. Is it not? So, how I integrate those resources into the unique form competencies and make my strategic choices such that I create a vision and build and exploit competencies to realize the vision with respect to my long-term success. So this is, in nutshell, the core competence model of C.K. Prahlad, which your study material delves into as a representation of internal analysis as an integral part of strategic analysis, which the other dimension of which is external analysis or the competitive landscaping. So I think this is where we need to, kind of focus. Rest of the things which are there in terms of your Tau's matrix or the BCG analysis and Ansof's growth matrix, I will be taking up in my next intervention on the same unit, and I will be, kind of integrating all these diverse elements of your unit, later on. So, one dimension of internal analysis is the competence theory. The other dimension of internal analysis, although value chain was, value chain can be looked at, in various senses, in various meanings, but in the specific meaning of this chapter, because this chapter is on competitive strategy and its two dimensions, namely competitive landscaping and the internal analysis. Now we need to understand this value chain, which is a Michael Porter's construction, as a vehicle or as a technique or a method of doing industry internal analysis. I will take another, I think, 5 to 8 minutes on elaborating this value chain analysis. If you remember my 2nd September analysis of strategic management syllabus, I will try to do something live here itself again to highlight that point. I had gone into the question of what is a firm, right? And for example, a firm can be regarded as a unified whole comprising parts that are integrated, interdependent, and interacting. This is the systems view of the firm. This is your class 11 if you have studied commerce, if you are commerce background, you would have done, business system. So a firm is a system, right? And in my 2nd September, I said it is a techno-economic system, it is a human system, it is an administrative legal system, right? So I described it as maybe interlocking circles, right? Here is the flattening of the value chain analysis flattens the elements of the firm. So what is a firm? Firm has infrastructure. What is a firm? Firm has human resources. What is a firm? Firm has technology. What is a firm? Oh, yeah, what does the firm do? It receives inputs, inbound logistics. It performs certain activities on those materials. This is called operations. And then it moves the products out through the outbound logistics. In order to reach the market, It engages in the marketing and sales, promotion, pricing, distribution, and it also serves the customers. And each activity, I'm sure you are students of chartered accountancy, you did an activity-based costing. So each activity can contribute toward the margin. We have done, I think, cost volume profit analysis or break-even analysis, as you call it. We have done it for product. We can do it for each activity, and I can do a dynamic, kind of a margin analysis for the successive activity, inbound and operations and outbound logistics. But that is where it becomes strategic cost volume profit analysis or strategic cost accounting, right? So one way to look at the industry firm strength is to look at these elements of the firm. Now, for example, a firm may be having a very good infrastructure, a great capacity. For example, Videocon has great capacity, and such great capacity that they are manufacturing various electronic appliances for various brands. Of course, Videocon is also a brand. They are producing it for themselves also. But what they are doing is that they are using their firm infrastructure to their advantage. They have converted it into a source of strategic advantage. So they are producing for their own brand, but they are producing for others also. So they are utilizing their capacity to the hilt, and they are generating more revenue and more margins. When I talk about capacity, firm capacity, I am also reminded of a beautiful example coming from a MSME in Mumbai. Of course, now the things have changed and lots of water has gone down the Ganges. That is Karl Nirnay. Karl Nirnay, is, I hope you're aware, is a calendar, is a printed calendar. And this itself is a story that how Karl Nirnay calendar story is a story where calendar has moved from the realm of gifting to the realm of purchasing, right? So when they set up their printing press for the calendars, they created excess capacity. There's so much capacity that they could produce, calendars are needed essentially in the first month of the year. Everybody buys them in the first month of the year. So they would produce the entire, calendar for the whole year, maybe in 2 months' time. For 10 months' time, their capacity is available. They utilize it for publishing so many newspapers simultaneously. It is not that the newspaper publishers have their own printing presses. So these newspapers are printed in elsewhere. So what I'm trying to say here is that here you are using your firm infrastructure as a source of competitive advantage, and therefore trying to kind of negotiate with the competition in the strategic environment. Or I have just taken the example of technology. You have mastered the information and communication technology that you are using not only for developing such products, and these products are across industries. As I said, education, banking, and medicine, and so on and so forth. Or you may have unique competence in merchandising and procurement. Remember, in export business and in international business, merchandising and even in fashion, merchandising is a huge competence. Because if you are able to buy good quality products at cheap prices, that provides you with a competitive leverage, right? So, if your procurement is your core competence, that you have your deep connection in the industry supply chain, that also gives you a kind of a competitive advantage which others not have. Now, this competitive advantage can partially also come out of monopoly rent. Suppose you are an integrated company. Integrated means I hope you understand integration, forward or backward. So if you are backward integrated company and then you have control over the supply chain, that will give you a unique competitive advantage, because your competitors will not be able to attain or obtain the supplies of the vital components that are needed to be able to deliver the products on demand and on time. In the procurement business, and suppose logistics is your core, and you have you have set up your godowns and your warehouses in different parts of the country and maybe different parts of the world, and then you are into containerization, and so your logistics is so strong that you are able to again compete globally in terms of obtaining the supplies and selling the products in different locations of the world. So the value chain analysis, in other words, as I said, value chain analysis has got various applications. For example, I have as yet not talked about the distinction between primary and support activities. I have taken value chain analysis as it is, and I have related it to the idea of the strategic advantage of the firm, that how each and every aspect of value chain can be used as to analyze the internal strengths of the firm, and these strengths of the firm, when mapped onto the external competitive landscaping, can be a source of sustainable competitive advantage and above average performance for the firm. So that means what I'm trying to suggest is that there are various methods of understanding both the competitive landscaping as well as the internal strengths, and it will depend upon the art and the acumen of the strategy formulators and the strategic thinkers. How these use, because somebody asked me whether the tools of strategic management, BCG matrix or what you call GE matrix, ANSUP, etc., these are used in practice or not. They are used, is it not? So you have to know these tools or techniques, and you must also know which technique to use. The question probably that occurs in the mind of the learners, whether, for example, Mansha probably asks whether these are theoretical, because this is how probably we teach these and learn these, is it not? In fact, most of these matrices have come from the practitioners, consulting firms. Now, BCG is a Boston Consultancy Group, and it's probably a business consulting major, in the world. And this whole idea has come from their practice of and consulting on strategic management. So all these tools can be deployed to conduct competitive analysis and internal analysis, but we must also have the wisdom to use these tools. Which tool to use where, when, and how. And also, I need to have kind of a conviction and a faith that these are but the tools. These are not strategic management. So if I were to collect all these tools and put into a book for strategic management, sorry, it is not strategic management. It is, as we have seen in the case of firms' competencies, it is the ability to utilize these tools to generate competitive advantage. That matters. So it is our ability to utilize these tools, for the purposes of formulating effective strategies for the firm. We are nearing the end of this particular session. I will rest my session here itself, and I will wait for any questions for you. And before I call it a day, I will be very happy if. No, rather, value chain is not created by only a single function. I said value chain is a framework which Michael Porter has developed, and it comprises not only the inbound and outbound logistics, which are and operations, which are referred to as primary activities, but also the firm structure, human resources, and procurement. So it is an integrated. As I said, this is a flattened view of the system, firm as a system that I talked about, techno-economic, production, marketing, finance system, right? And then administrative legal function. When I open this, kind of a, what you call system, circles, interlocking circles, so this is another way of expressing the firm. A firm is simultaneously a building or an infrastructure or a factory, and it has got what you call technology, it has got equipment, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for participating in this session. Your interventions have enlivened my classroom, and I will be acknowledging some of the interventions in my next session when I put my acknowledgements of your performance. Keep encouraging your teachers, because and a happy Teachers Day to you all, because you inspire us to give in our best. Thank you so much. I hope we are done. Vijayji, are you able to listen to me?